Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the advantages of being the junior most member of the committee on our side of the aisle is you get to listen to everything that's gone on before you during the course of a hearing. And I want to add my voice to my colleagues who have raised the concern about what happened yesterday. I listened to my ranking member ask a legitimate oversight question about the legal basis for troops to be rappelling from a Black Hawk helicopter for a military-style assault on an apartment building in a major city, the zip tying of children. What was the legal basis for this? I heard my ranking member ask that very simple question, that completely appropriate question. If that's not an appropriate oversight question, I don't know what an appropriate oversight question is. And the response was not just to refuse to answer the question, but it was to attack the character of the ranking member and to insult him. And then when it was Senator Whitehouse's turn to ask a question, he asked a very legitimate oversight question about a FBI undercover operation in which reportedly $50,000 was paid to the White House border czar prior to him becoming the White House border czar, but with the expectation that he would be helpful in arranging contracts when he became the White House border czar. What happened to the money? A perfectly legitimate oversight question. And rather than answer that question in a closed investigation, not an open investigation, but a closed investigation, she simply attacked Senator Whitehouse personally. And I heard another one of my colleagues ask, what was the legal basis for blowing up ships in the Caribbean? Reportedly, the Justice Department wrote an opinion justifying blowing up ships in the Caribbean. A perfectly legitimate oversight question, and the response was another personal attack. These, what were apparently canned, written personal attacks in advance. I wouldn't bother with the attacks on me. I've grown all too accustomed to them for the last 8 years. But if members of this committee can't ask those serious questions and get serious answers, we can't do oversight. I'm new to this committee. I spent about a decade on the House Judiciary Committee. I never saw a hearing like this with a cabinet officer, and if I did and some Democratic cabinet officer were to personally attack each of my Republican colleagues, I would call for a stop to it. It would be disgraceful. And I understand the reluctance to criticize on your side of the aisle one of the Republican cabinet members. But if this becomes the template for future hearings, we won't be able to do any oversight, and things will just degenerate. These questions deserve answers. I would expect that if troops were rappelling from helicopters in any city, in any of your states, and hog-tying children, you would want to know the legal basis. And so would I. We are going to submit for the record in written form the questions that the Attorney General refused to answer. I would hope, Mr. Chairman, you would join us in submitting those questions. They will have a much better chance of being answered if you join us in submitting those questions. But I would hope also in the future that if a witness, rather than respond, simply attacks our members, that it be stopped. That the witness be instructed to either answer the question or to state why they're refusing to answer the question, but to refrain from personal attacks on the members of this committee. That would be my request. And Mr. Chairman, I'm really grateful to be on this committee. And I appreciate every interaction I've had with you. You have, in our personal interactions, always been eminently fair. If I didn't think that you were of that character, I wouldn't even raise this because there wouldn't be a point. But I would ask that we not have another hearing like that one, and that you join in our legitimate oversight requests. And with that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I thought that I set the decorum for a hearing, oversight hearing, when I said before we asked the director of the FBI any questions or any statements, that we should, both sides, treat each other with respect. And I even said to Patel, if you don't get a chance to answer your questions, I'll give you an opportunity after the senator's finished for a few minutes to respond whatever you didn't get a chance to say. And you know how that meeting turned out. And particularly from your side of the aisle, a lot of strong statements about the FBI director. Whether they were legitimate or not is beside the point. It didn't follow the decorum, and obviously the director of the FBI didn't follow the decorum. So I don't know what more I can do than plead with my people who are fellow senators to follow a certain decorum, and I assume it would be followed on the other side. I don't appreciate the insults that went to Democrat members, particularly where they were wrong, but after seeing how senators handled the FBI director, I guess I felt that just let the show go on the way the senators wanted to go on. And that's what developed as a result of it. That may be a weak excuse for what happened that day, but I thought things didn't work out the way I expected them to when the FBI director was here, and some of the people on your side of the aisle were some of the ones that were screaming and yelling and talking over the FBI director. Meeting adjourned.
Before we dive in, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more Americans who care about truth, transparency, and protecting our freedoms from political corruption. Every click matters. Now let's get into it. What we just heard in that committee hearing was a moment that perfectly captures what's gone wrong in Washington. A senator, calm and respectful, laid out something every American, left, right, or center, should care about: government accountability. But instead of getting answers, we saw evasion, defensiveness, and personal attacks. And this wasn't just any witness. It was a cabinet-level official, a person who swore an oath to uphold the law and serve the people. The senator was absolutely right to raise these questions. Think about it. Troops rappelling from helicopters into a residential building, children being zip-tied, and no one in the Department of Justice can clearly explain the legal basis for it? If that doesn't alarm you, it should. This isn't about partisanship. It's about basic constitutional oversight. Congress is supposed to check the executive branch, not be treated like an inconvenience when it asks questions. Then we heard another senator raise concerns about a $50,000 payment tied to a future White House official. The question wasn't speculative or partisan. It was a straightforward inquiry. Where did the money go? And yet, instead of transparency, the response was another attack. No substance, no accountability, just deflection. That's the pattern. Democrats in positions of authority, especially under this administration, seem to have adopted a strategy of attacking the questioner instead of addressing the question. It's the politics of distraction. And when officials refuse to answer, it's not just the senators being disrespected, it's the American people. Because those senators are asking on our behalf. Now let's pause for a second. The senator speaking today wasn't hostile. He was calm, deliberate, and clear. He even praised the committee chairman, a Democrat, for being fair and decent in private interactions. That tells you something. This wasn't a partisan ambush. It was a genuine call for decency and accountability. But what did the chairman do? Instead of insisting that witnesses treat senators respectfully and answer legitimate oversight questions, he deflected. He pointed fingers back at Republicans, saying that they were rude to the FBI director in a previous hearing. And maybe some senators did get heated, but let's be honest, when Americans watch their government raid private homes, silence dissenters, and ignore the rule of law, they're not looking for polite small talk. They're looking for courage. Still, the senator's point stands. This was about process and respect. If we can't even have oversight hearings where officials are compelled to tell the truth without resorting to personal attacks, what kind of republic do we have left? Oversight isn't optional. It's fundamental to the separation of powers. What's most concerning here is the normalization of hostility toward accountability. We've seen it across the board, from the DOJ's selective enforcement of laws, to the FBI's politicized raids, to the White House's refusal to cooperate with basic congressional inquiries. When agencies of justice act like they're above the law, democracy starts to erode from within. To be clear, this isn't about tearing down institutions. Conservatives believe in strong institutions, but only when they serve the people, not when they're weaponized for politics. We believe in law enforcement, but we also believe in equal justice. We believe in national security, but not at the cost of constitutional rights. And here's where the Democratic Party deserves some constructive criticism. Too often, Democrats talk about defending democracy, but they only seem to mean protecting their own power. If they truly cared about democratic integrity, they'd be the first to demand transparency from every cabinet secretary, every agency head, every bureaucrat who thinks they're untouchable. Accountability shouldn't depend on which party holds power. That's why moments like this matter. Because this isn't just a Senate hearing, it's a mirror held up to the entire system. And it shows a troubling reflection, arrogance deflection, and a deep disconnect from the American people. The senator was right to say that oversight is impossible if witnesses are allowed to insult and dismiss legitimate inquiries. Congress must reclaim its authority. The American people deserve a government that answers questions, not one that hides behind politics and personal attacks. At the end of the day, this isn't about one party or one hearing, it's about the health of our republic. When power goes unchecked, liberty shrinks. When accountability dies, corruption thrives. And when government officials feel emboldened to mock oversight instead of respecting it, it's time for the people to demand better. So here's the bottom line. Americans deserve transparency. We deserve honesty. And we deserve leaders on both sides who respect the rule of law more than their own political careers. That's what this channel stands for. If you agree that it's time to hold Washington accountable, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. The more we speak up, the harder it becomes for those in power to ignore us. Because accountability isn't partisan, it's patriotic. And it's long overdue.